No, I said,
Nothing bad. Yeah, like if I lean forward too long, I guess I'm putting too much weight on it.
Yeah.
Like it'll like spaz out, so I have to remember like if I'm tying my shoes, I can only be there for so long.
Yeah.
Otherwise my back will still give, but can move now, so.
Yeah, looks better.
Much better, thank you.
All right, so here's this guy.
All right. So you got one of these fancy ones.
Well, yeah, the one that you recommended just didn't fit, so.
Oh, so you can add, you can purchase more of these guys, these prongs here.
Yeah.
Did you already fit this to, or is this how it came?
It's how it came, but it looks like it fits, but based on the videos I watched, I don't know.
So here, so prong collar, you want that to be lower. Oh, maybe I didn't have to do that. I'll call fix in a second. So here, now, typically, and I understand why you got this, I don't recommend these
Okay.
because they take away from the functionality of it, okay? Any kind of altered prong collar, in my opinion, is not as effective, but since you're doing e-collar with it, you should be fine, because this is just gonna be more so kind of power steering, if you will.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, with the e-collars, I haven't had to, like, at all use the leash, literally.
Sure.
So I don't even know if I need this thing, but.
This will be something like, let's say you're doing a quick in and out. Oh, I see here. It's interesting. Then in and out. Some people don't like the process of putting on the e-collar. And they'll opt for the prong instead because it still gives you some kind of leverage. So like if you're running out and you're like, well, I don't want to put this thing on, you can snap this thing on.
So this is how you put it though? So I saw there's two ways you can do it.
Yes, so you'll do it this way.
Like a choker?
No. So the reason why they do it the other way is to take away from the constricting power.
Yeah.
Okay, but the constricting part of it is actually what deters the behavior. Okay. The
What
only
happens if she
time-
runs after something? Like she go, when she starts pulling, it's like. there's no
Yes,
stop.
so what'll happen is if she puts pressure, right? Well, one, you have that.
Yeah.
Two, if she puts pressure, like let me show you real quick. Where this is here. It's the same concept as your e-collar, okay? So if I pull, see how she moves into it? If I pull, see how it's tightening up?
Yeah.
And then she moves into it, and I pull, like that. Okay? So the prong collar, think of it as power steering, okay? Is I can get a lot more conversation going across, which is subtle pressure. Like that, okay? So here, yes, there's dogs that will pull like hell
Yeah.
and bypass the prong collar, okay?
To the point where when you move so, it gets so tight that it doesn't get any tighter, as you're saying.
Correct, right? So that's a lot of dogs. That's why I do remote collar, because remote collar will override, okay? So you're not using prong solely as prong, you're using prong and e-collar, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just worried that there wasn't a stopping point where like she just, she's so damn stubborn that like if she kept
Right.
going, I wanted to like break her trachea or something.
No, this is actually, this is safer.
Yeah.
Okay, because the pressure is dispersed. Now, the difference between yours and ours, and the one, I think the one you probably got is there's a center plate. So it's mostly prong, whereas yours has a longer strip of blunt, because it's the blunt surface that actually does damage to the trachea. Okay, so prong collar, even though it looks worse, is actually so much safer than everything else. Okay?
Yep, cool.
So here, very subtle pressure. Like you said, you might find you don't even need it, but maybe like when you run around for a quick potty break, it still allows you to give a correction. It's
Okay.
just at the snap of your leash as opposed to the press of the button.
Okay, cool.
Now, I've seen throughout the years plenty of times, if I have a dog that is too reactive, that the prong collar does nothing.
Got it.
Right, but that's why we're here on the e-collar. I push e-collar because that's the one tool, 99.7% of the time or whatever, is gonna get me to shut down, the ability to shut down reactivity, right? Prong collar is way less the percentage of success, okay? Because dogs bite each other. So if your harshest correction is a 10, but she's at a 20,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
stuck,
okay.
right? But what can happen is let's say you do remote work, you kind of soften her up, if you will, and then you just run around the prong collar for a quick potty break. You see a dog, she lunges, and you pop her on the prong collar. Potentially, the e-collar has done enough work to soften her up that the prong correction is actually receptive. You know, like she's receptive of it, and she goes, oh, okay, I should probably cut this out, right? It's not always 100% of the time, but that's just a possibility.
Okay.
It's kind of like, you know, the ease of like putting the collar on. Because if you put her back to her harness or we put her on her flat collar, for sure, you're gonna get reactivity or you're not gonna have any leverage. Okay, because remember these collars like cops on collars, right? When the president, she goes, okay, gotta walk better, gotta behave myself, blah, blah, blah. When the collars are not on, she's like, oh, okay, I can get away with a few more things, okay? So this actually looks good, and then you set her muzzle curve.
Yeah. I didn't get the exact one. I
Okay.
figure I'm not gonna use it that often, so I just.
Okay, so here, this actually looks like the correct fit. The only thing I would say is, you see how rubbery this is?
Yeah.
I've had dogs eat this.
Okay.
Okay, so up to you if you want to use it. Like you say, you're not going to have it on her for very long. Because I think the basket was only like $15, $20. And these are about almost the same
This
price.
I can get on Amazon. I didn't want to like sign up for all the. This one. So the Baskerville was the one you recommended.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't on Amazon, so I just got this one.
Interesting. Okay, this is like the Amazon knockoff.
Shitty one, yeah.
What happens is this here, the Baskerville one, you can't do that. See how easy this is?
Yeah.
I can just crumble that. You can't do that with the Baskerville one. Okay, so as long as she doesn't try to eat it or chew through it or stuff,
Yeah.
you should be fine. But I've seen dogs do that.
Okay. I mean, okay, good to know. So I think you said there's a socialization portion, so I was hoping just to use it for that. And then,
Correct, right? But like, let's say going forward, if you want her to socialize with like a friend's dog, whatever,
yeah.
the one thing you're gonna have is you're gonna tell me, hey, can I socialize my dog with your dog, right? And you can say like, we've not had any issues, blah, blah, blah. Is it usually makes people uneasy because they're like, well, what if something happens,
Yeah.
right? That's where it comes into play. I personally don't care. I know for our dogs here, we have to because liability.
Sure, yeah.
But, you know, so that's just something to think
Okay.
about. Okay, so here, I'll go ahead and give you this. And what's your number currently at?
31.
31. Let's go ahead and dip it down to 18. So whenever we teach anything new, we do go down low or lower. So here, this is going to give you the ability to just have stationary control. Because I know for you, we had the reactivity stuff, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was resource guarding.
Resource guarding, and then she's jumping up on people.
Okay.
When they come over.
Okay.
Playful, like happened last night. I had a friend over last week, and she was great.
Okay.
And then we were sitting at the counter last night, and she was like jumping up.
Okay.
And then after like 2 hours, she was so upset she was pissed all over the floor. I think it was just like
Oh, sure.
uncontrolled. She's been great with that.
Okay.
Big kid, yeah.
So, yeah, because a lot of the issues here was just overexcitement.
Yeah.
Or overstimulation, right? And then peeing is one of those things that you can see. And actually, I had someone in the past week or two tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
That their puppy, that their dog was like fine and just got too excited to just pee.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon. When it comes to the jumping stuff, this is actually one of the things that you can use to help address that. Okay. Or if you have a guest come over, she's just being annoying.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some level of control. Okay. So, and I'm gonna give you other options too, because think of obedience as preventative control. So we have prevention and intervention. If I have her on this bed and she can't move, then she cannot jump on the guest, right? That's how that would work. However, but that's prevention. But let's say she's not under in command and the guest comes in, technically she could jump on them, right? So then we have intervention, stopping the behavior as it's happening, okay? We're gonna cover over both of those things because life isn't very black and white. In one situation, one thing may work, in another situation, another thing may work better. Okay, so I like to give you options.
Okay.
So here, what we have, we call this place. Some people say go to your bed. Doesn't matter what you call it. But essentially, it's go here, don't move. Okay, so what we're going to teach her is how, kind of like last week, how we taught her to respond to pressure and to walk at your side. What we're going to do here is kind of the opposite. Instead of walking at your side, we're going to teach her to lead your side. Okay, so go to shorten your leash about halfway. And what you're going to do is when I say tap, of course, you're going to press the button. And then you're going to be adding directional pressure using your leash towards the bed. So we would start tapping first, okay? So it would be, for example, tap, 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 and if I don't see her move, I keep tapping, but then as I'm tapping, I'm gonna then add in leash pressure, okay? And I'm gonna put the leash pressure towards the bed like I did earlier. Once all 4 paws are on, I stop tapping. If she tries to step off, I'm gonna start tapping again and then add counter pressure, again, back towards the placemat. She hops back on, I stop. Once she's able to hold it for a few seconds, you're gonna say break, and then move backwards, okay? And at that point, she can step off and follow you. You'll walk around, come to a stop, and repeat. We're gonna keep this at about a square distance or a foot distance away from the bed, so we're gonna be pretty close, okay?
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and tap, tap, tap. Good, and then wait a moment. See what she does. Let her relax your leash. Good. I'm gonna say break,
Break.
and backwards. Good girl. We're gonna try that 4 more times.
Okay.
And tap, tap, tap. Good. And relax. Wait a moment. And break. Move backwards.
Break.
Good girl. 3 more. Tap, tap. Good. Wait a moment. Relax your arm. Good. Break. Good. 2 more. Tap, tap. Good. Wait. Relax. Good. Then break. Move backwards. Break. Good. 1 more. Yep. 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 Good. So let's go ahead and bump it. Let's go to, we're at 18, right?
Yep.
Let's try 23. I can see that she feels it, so I want a little bit more hump. We're gonna do that same thing. This time when you go to approach, you wanna make sure to come to a pause first. If she tries to go on her own, you're gonna restrain her. Okay, don't allow her to go there.
Okay.
Again, hold her back. Once she holds back, then you can relax and she stays put. I'm gonna start tapping again. About 3 times. If no response, then you're gonna keep tapping and then pull her. Okay? Because we're trying to get her to respond to the tap, not the pull.
Okay.
Okay?
Same thing apply when I'm walking there.
Correct. Remember,
So it's tap first, then pull.
it would be tap then turn.
But if she's walking outside of my range.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you're walking forward, right, and she's pulling towards the side, you can just tap, and she should come to your side like that because you're moving forward. So there's going to be some kind of tension
Yeah.
there. Now, if she's on your right side, you just pull to the left and tap from the get-go because we just need her to move.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, break. Break.
Good.
Okay.
So hold right there. Now, tap, tap, tap. Now tap and pull, tap, tap. Good. And wait a moment. Good. And break.
Break.
And move backwards. Gonna repeat that 4 more times. Because what we want to see here is once she gets the concept, when you tap, she's just gonna walk through on her own.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay.
Tap, tap, better. Good. Wait a moment. And break.
Break.
Good. 3 more. Tap, tap, tap. Now pull. Tap, tap. Good. And relax. Good. Yes, girl. Break.
Break.
Good. 2 more. Tap, 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 tapping forward, tap, tap, good. So let's see right there, she got confused.
Yeah.
She moved backwards, right? So that's normal. That's why we're starting with that pressure first, because once she gets it, every single time it's going to be consistently tap, she moves forward, tap, she moves forward, okay?
Yeah.
So right now she's trying to decipher, like, what are my options? She just learned that backing up is not an option, okay? So then if she went over to the left or whatever like that, that would not be an option, because the tapping doesn't stop until she moves towards the object.
Okay, because that happened, she was really good, but there's a couple times where, like, I was in the hallway when I was walking with her, she was not healing.
Uh-huh.
Tap, she'd like pull away. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just keep tapping.
And keep moving opposite to her,
Okay.
right? So like, let's say you're walking and she pulls aside, and as you tap, she keeps going opposite
Yeah.
that way. You can either keep forward, or if you want, you feel like that's not working, keep tapping, but then turn the opposite way. And sometimes that'll make the dog come in. If you feel like she's, like the whole time she's resisting, I just keep going up on the power incrementally, until eventually it'll go high enough where she'll think like, okay, moving away isn't fixing the problem,
Okay.
and actually causing it to go higher. But as soon as I move in, it stops.
Okay.
Break.
Break.
Good, we'll do one more. Yeah. 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 Yeah, there we go. And a girl. Good job. All right. So better. So now we're gonna do the same concept, but now you're gonna start walking around the placemat, okay? So you'll walk and then you'll send her from this direction, from that direction, from that direction. So we're just changing up the angles, okay?
Okay. Good break. Break. Walk around.
Yeah. And you're ready for those stop. Good. We'll try from there. Yep. Yep. Right there. Good. And break. Good. One more. Okay. So here, remember, if you come to a stop and she starts to go prematurely, hold her back. Yeah. Okay. Break.
Break.
But I can see she's obviously learning what we're doing,
Mhm.
but we want to make sure she's doing it in response to the tap itself. Better. Yeah.
Tap.
Go. Tap. Okay. Tap. Tap. There we go. And a girl. Good. She keeps getting comfortable. Break.
Break.
There we go. 3 more. Okay. Wait a moment. Yeah, right. Good. Wait a moment. Now. Tap. 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 Now a little bit of pull. Tap. Right there. Good. Good. Great. Tap. Tap. Better. Add a curl. And last one. Break.
Break.
Okay. Yeah, pull it back. Good. Wait a moment. Tap. 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 A little bit of pressure. Tap. Tap. Good. Right. So it's kind of hit or miss, right? Sometimes you tap her and she goes pretty quick, and sometimes she hangs back for a little bit. That's normal. Okay, so that's why we keep kicking with the pressure first, because once we can tell she gets the concept, because it'll be more consistent that when she feels the tap, she's just going to go there. Okay, so that's good. And we're at 25, right, or 23?
23.
And your number was what earlier?
18.
Before that, the lady.
Well, I was at 18. Well, when I walked in, it was 30. I was in the 30s.
In her 30s? Okay.
31 to 35 seems to be.
Let's try 28 here. So we're going to do the same concept, but now you're going to move back a little bit. Okay, we're going to go about 2 squares back and then sending from any different angle. Okay?
Okay.
Break.
Break. Go from here.
Sure. Tap. 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 Now leash pressure. Tap. Good girl. Excellent. And break.
Break.
Good, 1 more. There she goes, get a girl. Good. Break.
Break.
3 more. Good. Tip. 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 Good, at a girl.
Good girl.
Break.
Break.
Good, 2 more. Tip. 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 There she goes. Good. Break. And last one. Tip. 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 There. Good. So now that would make 3 technically. Like she was a little closer to it, but she wasn't like already starting. So here, relax your leash. So if she tries to sneak off, we want to give her that option, okay, so we could correct it. So the last 3 that we just did were pretty consistent with her going to with just the tapping and not the leash pressure, okay? So that was the purpose of doing, I think we've done like 15 or maybe 20 cents so far, is starting with the pressure first. Is most people or most trainers, when they teach this, they'll walk the dog there, and it's really the walking, building momentum that gets the dog going, okay? And it becomes a part of the process where like every time you would send her, you would always go like this and walk with her and say place, whatever. And I want to be able to say place from wherever, and the dog just goes, okay? So that's why we made it simple. We start with our side and go from here to there, okay? Very simple. And then we started to change up the angles. The reason for changing up the angles is because if you always send from one direction, and then one day you decide I'm going to send from over here, she'll literally walk around and come from this side, because that's what she's used to. Dogs are creatures of habit, okay? So here, we want to teach her that it's not about how you approach it. You can approach it from any direction. It's really just get to this object, okay? So here for her, she's learning, when I feel this pressure, there's now another option to turn it off. Last week it was, don't be reactive or walk at my side, right? Now it's go to this place.
Okay.
So here, the way she interprets what the collar means depends on what life looks like in the moment. So if you're in your home and you transfer this to her dog bed or whatever you're going to use, and you said place, or you just tapped her even without any word, and you already taught her to go to the object with the pressure, her assumption in that context would be like, I guess I'm going to go to the dog bed. Okay? Because we don't heal with her inside the home, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, because last night when she was jumping, I shouldn't have done this, but I'm like, when she was jumping on this guy, I would just tap her and tell her to get down. But now I think what you're saying is like, if I do that, she'll know, if I say place when she jumps on someone, she'll know to go to her bed.
So technically yes, right? Now there's 2 options to correcting jumping. One option is, again, the preventative measure. If she's on this object, and because if your guest is here, technically she could jump on him, right? Because place is lenient in the sense of it's just go here and don't move. I don't care if you sit, I don't care if you stand, I don't care if you lay down, I don't care if you chew on a bone or play with a toy. Just go to this object and don't get off of it, right? So if someone came close enough that she could jump on them, technically she's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it would be like your guest comes in, your door's over here or whatever, and she's on the placemat, she can't get to them, right? So it prevents the jumping from happening. What you just said is technically not wrong, okay? Is that if she jumped on the person and you tapped for her actively jumping, that's what we would call intervention. Is you're allowing the behavior to happen, but you're stopping it as it's happening, okay? So it's a balance of both. So her being on here does not teach you not to jump, just prevents you from doing it.
Okay.
When you add the aversive to a behavior, so like, if every time you swore, you got a burning sensation in your hand that was painful, that would deter you from swearing, right? Because you're like, I know if I do this, that's going to happen, and it sucks, right? Same thing for the dog, right? Is if she jumps, she gets that contraction, and if it's at a level that she respects, it's going to deter the behavior. She's like, every time I jump, this happens, I don't like it. What happens if I don't jump?
Yeah.
Nothing, right? So that's the intervention. So how do these things work together? Well, let's say your friend's gonna come over, guests or whatever. This you'd want to use proactively. If your guest comes at 5:30, 5 o'clock she's already here.
Okay.
Because people tend to wait for the dog to be crazy first, before they establish control, right?
Okay.
And because we're humans and we can think, at least for a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
plan ahead, right?
So she's really smart. Well, I'm sure all dogs figure this out, but like I live in a condominium, so when the phone rings, that buzz people in, and she knows.
Yep.
She hears that. She hears the beep.
Mhm.
So she gets all jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what's gonna happen if she goes in her bed, and she's gonna hear. She's gonna hear that. She's gonna be antsy. She's gonna be staring at the door.
Mm-hmm.
How do I keep her from staying on? How do I keep her on the bed? Will this prevent her from getting up? Do I do the
Correct.
intervention? Do I do the intervention where she gets up and I?
So it's a blend of things, okay? So let's do this. Go ahead and have a seat right there, okay? We're gonna talk, because we have two components here. We have the go here, we have the go here, that's the send, and then we have the don't move, the stay, okay? And what you're asking is, let's say your phone just rings because there's like a random guest, whatever. She's already going crazy. She has nothing on or something on.
I'll put it on when
Okay. So you can actually get control back even if the dog is going crazy. Okay. It's just easier for the dog owner if they plan ahead. Okay. So let's say she's not ready or whatever. Don't worry about her. Go grab your stuff, turn it on or whatever. You put it on her, right? And after you put it on her, and in the beginning you'll be using your leash as well, because you need something to physically make her go if she won't go on her own. Okay? And don't gamble it. Trust me. Just pop the leash on her and start remoting to get her to go there. What will most likely happen is once you start the tapping process to get her to go there, that'll most likely settle her down. Okay, depending on where she's at energy-wise. So like let's say you do that, you tap her, she goes to her bed, and she does settle. Well, what's gonna trigger her again?
The phone or the door or...
Right, somebody knocking, right? You open the door, whatever.
Yeah.
So we have typically 5 triggers. Doorbell, door knock.
Yeah.
In your case, it'd be the phone ringing, then the door knock, whatever. Then it's you grabbing the handle, cracking the door open, and then her seeing the guest. Okay, and the guest coming in. So technically you have 6. Okay. Some dogs will trigger for each one of those things. So let's say the phone rings, the guest is coming, you get her ready, you send her, she goes, she calms down. But then they knock, and she triggers again, right? So technically she cannot leave the area. Doesn't mean that she won't, but technically she can't. So if she does try to leave it, having that leash allows you to correct her to send her right back very easily. Because if you don't have any kind of physical means, you're gonna have to chase her down a bit, okay? Once we get her back on, technically, she would most likely calm down, okay? Because you put on negative. Then you go to the door. You grab the handle. Some dogs will trigger, try to break away from the handle. You would start tapping, keep tapping, lead her back, she goes back, and then go back to the door. I grab the handle, she doesn't move. Crack the door open, she sees the guest, doesn't move. Guest comes in, she tries to move. I start remoting again, keeping that rhythm on, and I send her back, okay, in the beginning, because you have to go through all these processes before she can learn, like, oh, if I'm on here, and I hear the phone ring, the door knock, blah, 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 it doesn't matter if I try to get off, because Dad will make me come back. Is that's what deters them from doing it in the future, okay? This isn't gonna be, you teach her and then it just works. We have to teach her that no matter what's going on, her job is to stay within this confined space, okay? So then...
So you gotta have someone to do it over and over.
Yeah, over time, like don't think you have to like have someone come in and out and blah, 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 because eventually if you did it like 2 times in a row, for instance, typically by the 3rd time, the dog won't do anything. Okay, it would be like you do it on Monday, and then on Wednesday somebody else comes, like that kind of, you're just practicing as guests come over. So there's gonna be mistakes, right? If you are struggling with her staying on the area, what do you think the problem is?
I'm not sure on that.
You just looked at it.
Yeah, it's not high enough. For
Not high enough, okay? That's almost always the answer, okay? Is if stealing like a Snickers is a slap on the wrist, I think people don't like, or whoever would steal Snickers, like they'd steal Snickers, right? It's just a slap on the wrist. But like, let's say stealing a Snickers was actually a federal crime, you go to prison for 10 years.
Yeah.
Is that Snickers worth 10 years of prison time?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's going to deter you, right? For her, she doesn't have the concept of time or the concept of like a financial, like, you know, like being ticketed or whatever, right? Hers is all physical consequence. So if you're like, man, at 28, it's just like not working. Then go 35, not working. Go 40, not working. Go 45, right? Or you can go 30, 40, 50, 60, and you can escalate in 10s.
Yeah.
Because I want to get to that answer faster. Because in her world, if she did something another dog did not want, they would just bite her. Okay, and they would bite her at the degree that they feel is appropriate. Okay, so I've seen, so there's, my dogs, I trust my dogs, they correct. They'll snap at a dog, blah, 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 but they correct correctly. And I've come across dogs in my career that overcorrect, and I mean by like grab the dog and just full on bite, and like anger management type of stuff, right? So here, and they don't care about how the other dog feels, right? Now for us, because we're humans and we're logical and there's emotional components, excuse me?
They don't have empathy.
Correct, right? But that's why I give you that structure, right? I say like, don't start off on 100, you start at, 20, 30, whatever, and then you just keep going up each time, because if you just stay at the lower level, you're not going to get anywhere, right? And from what I've seen so far, like, it looks like she's responding well to that 30 to 30s range, whatever, which is not out of the ordinary. It's pretty standard. Like 25 to 35 is just like, there's a big chunk of dogs within that range, with my outliers being like 80 plus or like 10 below. Okay, those are the outliers, but most dogs are between that 25 to 35 range. So here, once you figure that out, whatever her magic number is, and you have the guest come over and you're like, all right, her number's 65 and guest come over, you're going to start to see your level of corrections just drop dramatically. Okay, and to where like you're not going to do anything because she's thinking like, crap, like dad has no problem, correct me at 65, which is what I need in order to keep in my place. Okay, same thing when it comes to correcting jumping. So just because she's jumping doesn't mean you just come in harshly, right? I start at 20, 25, 30, or 20, 30, 40, 50, she's sleeping then. Until I stop the behavior. Because if I come in too harsh for a small infraction, it can cause the dog a little bit of distrust, right? So I go in low and I just work my way up until I find that number where she's like, crap, every time I jump up on someone, this happens. And if I don't jump on them, nothing happens, right? Because I don't care really what she does. I don't care that she's excited to see people, that's good. Is we don't want her to go over the top. So, like my dogs, they come in and they like walk around and they're wiggling and all that stuff, but they're not jumping, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So you have both approaches at your disposal. Just remember, if you're trying to teach her not to jump, then technically you have to allow her to jump or think about it and correct for that behavior itself. Okay?
So when she jumps, tap, hold.
So here, like let's say she jumped up, right? I would ignore her, and we wouldn't do anything with the leash. We would just tap and keep bumping it until she removes herself. Okay. Now, if you have to pull her because it's a kid or something, then you do so. But the ideal way is to let the dog perform the behavior and correct as they're performing it.
I did it last night, and she like kind of went ape. Well, not ape. She just like went back, and then she got the zoomies after that, and she just was going crazy, which I haven't seen in like.
What was the highest you remembered her at?
I haven't gone above 35.
Okay,
so last time was probably at 32, something like maybe 35.
Okay, so you're at 35, for example, to stop that excited energy. And instead, she goes, if I can't jump, then I'm going to zoom. Right? So, what does it tell us?
It's injecting energy into her, I don't know.
Higher?
Higher?
Yeah, because, so what happened was...
What about when she's zooming?
You can still do that. You can disagree with zoomies.
Really?
Yeah, you can disagree with anything you don't want, okay? Now, you have to think of it this way. Zoomies looks funny. They tuck their butt in, the way they're running, right? It's cute. A lot of people like it until they break something, right?
Yeah.
So I had a guy, his dog, he had a large breed dog, and he allowed the zoomies because it was cute when the dog was a puppy.
Yeah.
And eventually, the dog knocked down his TV. And it was like a $2,000 TV, right? And I was like, not so funny anymore. So
I thought it was like, oh God, sorry.
No, you're fine. So, so yeah, you can disagree with it. Okay. Now, if you don't want to disagree with that, I don't care. But in that moment, what happened was she was hopped up on something, right? So she wanted to like jump on her desk, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. You were saying you can't do that. So she goes, okay, well, if I can't jump on them, I'm gonna do this instead.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a kid, right? Like if I can't do this, I'm gonna run around screaming. Like my mom was just.
Yeah.
No, you're not gonna do that either.
I always was under the assumption like the zoomies are like a seizure, like they can't. Because they call it like fret. It's like a, you know, they have like a scientific name for it, right?
Oh. Science and dog training in my place, like it has nothing in my book. But yeah, zoomies, it's an overstimulated state of mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's why puppies tend to have that.
Yeah.
And what happened is that energy, that excited energy, because you said you can't express it this way. She said, well, I'm gonna express it this way.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can disagree with it. So if I tapped at 35, I stopped one behavior but created another. We call it redirected behavior, right?
Yeah, that's exactly that.
And then let's say I tapped her 3 times. She's like, screw it. 45, 55, 65, oh!
Okay.
And she's like, oh. I'm like, yeah. I said, cut the crap.
Yeah.
Didn't mean do something else. I want you to cut it out, right? And very important, when you're correcting behavior, you wouldn't say stop or no or something like that, in my book. Okay?
No verbal cues, huh? Okay.
So the reason is, if I told you, I'm gonna leave, don't go out that door, you understand that, okay? Dogs don't. For her, I'd have to give her the ability to try it and correct her as she's doing it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, if she's jumping on you, and you say off, and then you correct her, she can technically jump on you until you say off, okay? If you want her to not jump, period, we have to correct with no warning. So she thinks that her jumping is what causes the correction. Because if you cue it, she thinks the word is what causes the correction. Does that make sense? So we have control and eliminate. If I want to control a behavior, I have to have a cue. If I want to eliminate a behavior, I don't put a cue on it.
You punish them or correct it while they're doing it.
Correct. Right? And this is it throws a lot of people off.
So the stop part, say it again, so when they're jumping.
Yeah, so think to yourself, think this. With your guests, do you want her to jump on your guests?
No.
Ever?
No. Yeah, I never do.
Yeah, so we want to eliminate that. We wouldn't warn her. We're teaching her, when you jump on a guest, this is going to guaranteed automatically happen until you stop, right? But if you say off, she's going to think, oh.
I can do this until off.
Correct, yeah. My insurance guy.
Yeah, actually, give me 1 second here, sorry.
Yeah, until you say off, right? But whereas for somebody like a kid, you can say, hey, you don't jump on this person or you will get spanked later.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 right? And the kid can take that and go like, okay, I'm not gonna jump on this person because I don't want to get spanked.
Yeah.
Dogs technically have to do it and then be corrected.
Okay.
So like, let's say barking out the window, right? Some people know, you know, if they're in a high rise or 5 floors up or whatever, I don't need my dog to bark at people on the street because there's no way they're coming up here. They would just want to eliminate it. But someone who lives like on a 1st floor apartment may not want to eliminate it, right? Because there's a possibility of someone trying to break and enter, right?
Yeah.
So they'll want to stop it, but they don't want to eliminate it. So then they would say like, no bark, and then the correction.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Right? So then eventually, if they empower the word enough for that phrase enough.
So in that case, you'd say no bark and then use
Right,
it.
because we don't want to eliminate it. We want to control it.
Yeah, control it. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So for her behavior stuff, like reactivity, you know, we want to eliminate it, right? Jumping, you want to eliminate it. Anything that you see her do, just think to yourself, so I'm going to control this, I want to eliminate it. Right? And it doesn't matter what you pick and choose. Right? Your house, your rules. You pay for the rent, you pay for the training, you pay for her dog food, you pay for her vet bills, pay for her nice coat here, her training stuff, right? You can have your rules. So don't feel bad about that. The only time I disagree when people put rules on their dog is if it's against the dog, right? So for instance, I had a lady who, let's see what she does here. So we don't do it, so this is technically fine. Now tap, 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 right there. Perfect. She had this like cute little floof, right, like a Maltese, whatever. And she's like, I should train my dog not to sniff dog butts. And I was like, we talking about? And I'm like, she's like, yeah, she's like, it's gross. And I was like, if you think that's gross, then why did you get a dog?
Yeah.
We're not going to correct that because your dog is social, and that is a social behavior, right?
Yeah.
But if, things like not being on the couch, not being in bed, barking, blah, 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 like that's all perfectly fine.
So that's it brings up good. So when I let her out, I was trying to remember exactly what you told me about, like letting her be a dog and take a piss and take a shit or whatever. So I usually let her out, and then I'm trying to find the balance where, like, when she's walking, if I think she's got to go do business, then I just kind of like let her do it. Is that's fine?
You want to cue that break, okay?
Yeah, I say do your business, and then I think it's working. And she goes off.
Yeah, once we cover the second half of heel, it's going to clear that up for now. If everything's going good, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
But once we cover the actually cueing the word itself, it's gonna make it a lot more clear. But my structure is 80% work to 20% play, right? So if I do a 45 an hour long walk, 45 minutes or so is gonna be structured heel, and then 10 to 15 minutes will be now you can be a dog. And people want to give their dog just be a dog all the time, but then we end up with like reactivity, and then we end up with like lunging at things and all this other stuff because that's what the dog wants to do. And they go, nope, we're not going to do that, right? So that stuff we don't feel bad about. And if she's doing great, and it's like, hey, it's a nice Sunday afternoon, we're just going to go for a stroll, I'm going to let you just meander. I don't care, as long as she's behaving, right? Now, I only care about that stuff if I start to see it have an adverse effect on the dog's behavior. And the owner's giving too much leniency, and now we're starting to see like separations, anxiety, come back, and reactivity and all that stuff, then I care.
Yeah, I guess one other thing on that is when I let her be a little bit more loose, is that signaling to her, then she can just, I guess, am I always going to need to use this thing, or like, I guess what I'm saying is like, when I let her be more loose, I'm afraid that she's reverting back to her old ways.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, eventually, am I always going to need this thing?
So, do you think humans will ever be without law enforcement and laws?
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely not.
Yeah, right. So remember, that's why I call this cop on collar.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest way to relate it, right? Because without threat of consequence, people would pull shit, right? If you watch a post-apocalyptic movie,
or just live through 2020. You don't have to explain it.
Yeah, like.
So you always, and I'm fine, I'm fine always putting it on.
It's present.
Yeah.
Right? So like if you're, like that's why I said earlier, if you're just taking her out for a quick piss, you want to pop her on the prong, I get it. But at least you still have some type of aversive to deter the behavior, right? But the tools are present, doesn't mean you're always using them.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? It's kind of like cops are around, but they're not always giving me a ticket because I'm obeying the laws, I'm not speeding, I'm not running red lights. Well, actually, I ran a red light the other day, I got a ticket. And I was like, damn.
They're not going to pull you over.
I turned them on a red light and they got a ticket for it. So, but now that reminded me, like, all right, don't even try to make a turn on a red light,
Yeah.
So, so it's just present, right? And the other thing is one remember always account for is that what if an off-leash dog just runs up to you out of nowhere? What if someone blows up a firework and she's off leash and she gets spooked, right?
Yeah.
There's also just that whole the extreme stuff.
Yeah, life happens, you're saying.
Yeah, that I want to know that I always have a means of control. Okay. So, questions about any of this stuff so far?
No, let's keep going. Let's get her.
So let's go ahead and we'll tell her break. And we're going to start putting the words to this.
Okay. Break it.
Yeah, break. And then
Break.
Back. So we're going to start. We use the word place. We use the word go to bed. What would you like to do?
Bed.
Bed. So what you do is you're going to cue the word first, and then you're gonna start tapping. And if we don't get a response from her, you're gonna keep tapping and then pull.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, bed.
Okay.
Tap.
Yeah. Right there. Good.
Good.
Break.
Okay, break. Break.
Good, we're gonna do 4 more.
Okay. Bed.
Break.
Break.
Yeah. Pull.
Break.
Pull. A little bit more. Pull. 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 Good. 3 more.
Okay. Should I bed and then tap or just
Bed.
bed?
Tap. 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 Very good girl.
Good girl.
Break.
Break.
Good. 2 more.
Bed.
Tap. 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 Good. And last one.
Break. That's it. Bed.
Tap. 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 Right, hold right there. Perfect. I'm gonna pause right there. And relax your leash. Good. So now you have a lady. Okay. So when you get home today, what you'll do is you can use a towel, you can use a blanket, you can use a kitchen mat, an ottoman, her dog bed, obviously, anything that has a perimeter. Okay. You can't point to the corner and say go to bed because there's nothing that defines it. Okay. So she needs something like this. Or a towel, so she goes, oh, okay, if I stay within this space, I'm okay. And she can sit, stand, lay down, chew on a bone, whatever. Technically, she can even play with another dog if they're within the same space. They just can't get off of it, right? I had one guy that used an area rug. He was like, could that be placed? I said, sure. It's just a really big place that your dog can like literally run laps with it, right?
Yeah.
That was perfectly fine. Dogs just cannot step off of it. So here, when you go home with your object, you're gonna have to redo this, okay? Because you have to transfer it to there. She's not gonna go like, oh, he said go to bed. It's the same thing as the thing at Jessie's place, right?
Yeah.
So you'll layer it in there. To work on the duration aspect of it is kind of what we just did right there, okay? So that was intentional, that's all right, of having you sit there for a bit. And ultimately she ended up going like, all right, well, I guess I'm done. Right, you try to sneak off, and you tap, and then what you do? She backtracked, right?
Yeah.
It's really good, because that means she's got concept. She learned, oh, I stepped off, and I got remoted. No warning. I guess I better go back on now, right? Now she's thinking, oh, crap. Well, if I get sent here, I guess that means I can't move.
Yeah.
If I try to move, I get remoted. No warning, and that's the important part. Because remember earlier, if you want to eliminate something, what do? You just correct with no warning. So for her, let's say you're working at home, you're going to sit on the couch, watch TV, work from home, eat lunch, dinner, blah, 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 is we start with the dog next to us, okay? I'm on the couch, watching TV, dog bed here, with the leash on, collar on, go to bed, and I watch my movie. An hour goes by, she tries to sneak off, I remote her, she goes back on, I go back to watching my movie. 30 minutes later, she tries again, I correct her, she goes back on, I watch my movie, right? So we do this when you're going to be immobile for a bit.
Okay, yeah, and that's good because she's always on the couch. I can't get her to stay in bed, so.
Okay, yeah, that's how we do it. But you're going to need your leash in the beginning. The leash is going to be on for the first couple of weeks, okay? Because it gives you that leverage to correct her. Because I guarantee you, if you try to do this without a leash, she's going to try to sneak off. You're going to correct her, she's going to run off.
Yeah.
Because she's going, I got a knife. She's like, I got another option right now because there's no way for you to control me, right? So we do this in the beginning to condition, until she goes, oh, okay, there's no option for me but to stay on the bed or go back to it, okay? There's no limit on this. You can literally go home right now and do 2 hours, okay? But just expect she's gonna make mistakes, okay? So here, every day what I would suggest is do a little bit of time. You do 30 minutes one day, 2 hours another day, 15 minutes another day.
2 hours for just sitting there, you're saying?
Yeah, you know, like think to yourself, how would you use it? And by 2 hours, I mean like if it's applicable to you.
Yeah.
So like if it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have friends come over for like 5 hours and I might need her to not move for 5 hours so she's like out of everybody's way, then it's okay to practice that degree because it's realistic to you. If it's like, no, a couple hours is fine, then you just practice a couple hours. You can do 2 hours every day, you can do 2 hours every other day, you know, but you have to practice to that degree on a somewhat regular level if you know that's going to be a thing, right? Because what people do is they usually do the short stuff because they feel bad. Well, I'm going to do 10 minutes, and then when their guests come over and they're like, okay, dog, you should not move for 3 hours now, it's not going to work because the dog's not done longer than 10, 15 minutes, okay? And dogs sleep for anywhere between 16 to 20 hours a day anyways. You're just picking where she's doing it, right? So here, you could build this up to, oh, we're going to go to a restaurant, plop a towel down, go to your bed, and she just goes there.
Yeah.
And you can have your lunch or brunch or whatever, hang out with your friends, have a beer, and she can't move, right? But if you've not done it in the home on somewhat of a consistent basis, again, it's not going to just transfer over because you've done no work, okay? So for the exercise that we did today, the sending exercise, the go to bed, good girl, break, you're going to do that 2 times a day, 3 to 5 minutes, super short, okay? Because exercises like this get frustrating for dogs because they're redundant. The long-term
2 times
stuff,
a day, have to go on bed once, twice, then.
yeah, like a handful of times.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like go to bed, break, walk around, go to bed, break, walk around, a few of those, 3 to 5 minutes, 2 times a day.
Okay.
And then you can do the stationary component, okay? However many times a day you want, because it's not redundant. It's just go here, don't move. Okay, so like so far earlier, she was probably there for like 10, 15 minutes. And like 3/4 of the way in, she decided I'm done. We corrected, she went back. And now she's been doing about 3 to 5 minutes, right? So here, this all factors or counts as stationary work, okay?
Yeah.
So you don't have to do this and then stare at her for 5 minutes and say, okay, break. Just like do this when you're not gonna do anything. Maybe if you're gonna answer emails, watch TV, eat lunch, you know?
Plenty of time to practice this, I mean, so.
Yeah.
So.
And the one thing is, this is like the easiest thing to do, and I think that's why people blow it off. Because they think like, oh, I can practice at any point, like whatever, right? And then fast forward a few months, and then they're like, oh, let's use that command Jessie taught me. It's not gonna do any good because it's not been practiced, right? So, questions about any of this stuff?
The only thing that comes to mind is, so if I get her working and, you know, she goes to her bed when I tell her to, sometimes like, I'm fine with her being on the couch, just I want to be able to control it. So if I put her back onto the couch, it's fine, or do I need to?
Yeah, like I don't care if she's on the couch. Like let's say you want her to be on a specific part of the couch, you can actually do that.
But if I say bed and she's not going, then I need to deploy this.
Right, and so we never give a command if we can't reinforce it. Okay, so like, let's say she's naked, right?
Yeah.
And I go to your bed. She'll look at you and be like,
Yeah.
make me, right? And then you gotta play that game.
Yeah.
So here, if I know I'm gonna send her, I would go call her up first, and then say go to your bed. Does that make sense?
Let's call her up first. Say it again.
Call her up.
Oh, call her up. Okay.
Yeah.
I said call
And
her.
then send her, right?
I
Get
get
that
it.
control on first, then send the dog. And that's with any form of training. Like even with puppies, like if I'm doing food stuff, I'll tell the owner, if you look at your puppy, people can tell like if their puppy's gonna listen or not. I'm like, if you look at them and it looks like a situation where they're not gonna listen, don't give the command. Okay? Because you're just teaching the dog, you can ignore me. Right? So here, if I said, hey, go to your bed and it's not on, then I gotta go and get the collar and all that stuff. She just learned, like even though you did get the collar, she just learned I don't have to do it immediately.
Okay.
And we want everything to be immediate. Okay? And this is because you're in the training phase. So if you're doing this consistently, you know, in the home at some point, and I'll give you other means of correcting her so you're not relying on the collar.
Yeah, cool.
But in the home at some point, in most cases, the collar goes away a lot because it's just a home. It's outside that's problematic for a lot of people because there's so many stimuli that you can't account for. Okay? Anything else?
No, it's good.
Good. So she's looking good. Her response to it is good. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary here. I think she's a good looking pit too.
Yeah, she thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
I get a lot of compliments, so.
yeah. I'm not,
You would know better than anyone.
my blue nose is getting old.
Yeah,
Every time I look at her,
so-
I can just, huh?
You said she's 10?
She's about 8 to 9 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then she had facial paralysis in response to we think it was an idiopathic response to a rabies shot. So like one day, it was during a storm. My girlfriend at the time noticed like her face looked like it was melting. It was literally just like drooped, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
And they said it was facial paralysis, and then it transferred from like one side and went over to the other side.
Oh, man.
And then it did go away, but it left partial paralysis. So you can see where her one of her ears isn't the same, in her face and stuff, and then like her mouth is just like the old dog mouth, it starts to like kind of
Yeah.
crinkle up or whatever, so she's starting to look like that now.
I gotta tell you, man, I've never had like a pit. I've got brothers, they've got dogs, and it's between a husky and a pit, but now that I have her, I will never not get a pit bull.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a cult dog, you know, it's like, when you have one, you understand how great an animal.
Yeah, no, myself, I wanted to get a puppy, and we were gonna get a pity puppy as well.
Yeah.
But we couldn't find any I was gonna get one from a breeder, but nobody's really breeding right now. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, cause I wanna get mine while I still have these guys around.
Oh.
But she's good at like,
Good mentor.
yeah, correcting all that stuff. So I got, cause these are my dogs here actually.
Oh.
That's Xena, Wancho, and then yeah, Lexi.
Nice.
So Xena actually lives with a friend of mine now because she's old. She's like 11, partially blind and all that stuff. He's got a family, so she does better. She's better with like a family. So I have my Chihuahua and Pit left.
Nice.
So, all right, man.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it.
Of course.
3:30 next week then, is that?
I believe.